What's going on, guys? It's Greg here, aka NYPrepper. It is Monday, August 4th, 2025, and I have some breaking news to share with you guys. Right now it is 13:25 Eastern Time here in the United States, and we have some major breaking news coming in from Eastern Europe, Asia, and from here in the US. I wanted to start by updating you on the situation with Trump and Russia. So if you're not aware, over the last couple of days, there were some very strong words exchanged between Trump and the former president of Russia, Dmitry Medvedev, basically nuclear threats. Trump said Medvedev was entering very dangerous territory, and then Medvedev responded by saying that the dead hand system in Russia has been armed and that Trump's policy of selling weapons to Ukraine through NATO could lead to war between Russia and the US. And then Trump responded back by saying that he deployed 2 nuclear-armed submarines close to Russia. And so we also had Trump say that the US is prepared for nuclear war. I want to play this clip for you of Trump speaking to reporters before the weekend. Take a listen.
Nuclear submarines. Oh yeah, well we had to do that. We just have to be careful. And a threat was made and we didn't think it was appropriate, so I have to be very careful. So I do that on the basis of safety for our people. A threat was made by a former president of Russia, and we're going to protect our people.
Mr. President, can you give us any more information on the nuclear subs? And what did Medvedev say to you that made you really mad?
Well, you just have to read what he said. He was talking about nuclear. When you talk about nuclear, we have to be prepared, and we're totally prepared.
Did you talk to St. Wyckoff today from his journey to...
So he said, when you talk about nuclear, you have to be prepared, and we're totally prepared. And right now we have a U.S. presidential doomsday plane up in the air over Offutt Air Base. It was flying with its transponder turned off. Looks like it's about to land at Offutt Air Base, which is the home of U.S. Strategic Command. But you can see here that it was flying with its tracker turned off until it was about to land. You can see it's about to land right now. So it was flying with no tracker, which is very unusual. That means that U.S. continuity of government protocols were enabled this afternoon for some reason, and they scrambled a doomsday plane for the president up in the air, flying with no tracker. Very, very rare to see that. And before I continue with the breaking news, I wanted to mention the sponsor for this update, which is NYPrepper Supply. Guys, NYPrepper Supply is doing a massive sale on their 3-month emergency food supply. You can get 3 months of emergency food, 2,000 calories a day for just $500. That's $200 off their normal price with free shipping included. This food has a shelf life of 25 years, and it's a variety of different types of food. So if you use the link preparewithnyprepper.com, you can save $200 on their 3-month emergency food supply. The link is in the description below this video. That's preparewithnyprepper.com, and the link is in the description below this video. And we have some very concerning information coming out of Pennsylvania. Potassium iodide tablet distributions are scheduled near Pennsylvania nuclear power plants. If you live close to one of Pennsylvania's 4 nuclear power plants, including Peach Bottom, you'll be able to get free potassium iodide tablets in August. The Pennsylvania Department of Health is coordinating the statewide distribution on August 14. Residents who live, work, or study within 10 miles of the 4 active nuclear power plants are encouraged to pick up the tablets at one of the distributions. The distribution of the potassium iodide tablets, which reduce the risk of thyroid cancer from exposure to radioactive iodine, is done as a precautionary measure associated with emergency preparedness planning, said Secretary of Health Dr. Deborah Bogan. The tablets are only to be used when directed by emergency response officials. The department encourages anyone with expired tablets to replace them with new ones that can be easily obtained from any of the pickup locations on August 14. Printed instructions, including when to take the tablets, proper dosage, and storage guidance, will be provided during pickup. The distributions are scheduled at locations near the Peach Bottom Atomic Power Station in southeastern York County, the Susquehanna Steam Electric Station east of Berwick in Luzerne County, the Limerick Generating Station outside of Pottstown, and the Beaver Valley Power Station in Beaver County. Residents who are unable to attend the distribution event can still obtain free potassium iodide tablets, which are available year-round at county and municipal health departments, state health centers serving these areas, or by calling the Department of Health at 1-877-PA-HEALTH. So very concerning information, very strange for Pennsylvania to suddenly start distributing potassium iodide. And Taiwan's Deputy Foreign Minister Francois Wu Chi-chung warned that China is actively preparing to invade Taiwan, citing military buildup and gray zone tactics. Wow. So Taiwan is warning that China is actively preparing to invade. And we have seen in recent weeks and months all of the different training exercises that China has been doing. They did 2 amphibious landing exercises in the last month, and then they also did that big blockading exercise earlier in the year. They actually did like 2 blockading exercises this year, and then they also did that random live fire exercise right off the coast of Australia. Okay, so very concerning. And China's defense minister warned that U.S. bases in Japan and South Korea could be targeted during a war with Taiwan. So China's saying if you help Taiwan, we're going to target U.S. bases in Japan and South Korea. That is absolutely insane. And Putin said on Friday that Russia will deploy their new intermediate-range ballistic missiles to Belarus later this year and begin mass production of them, sitting alongside Belarus President Alexander Lukashenko on Valam Island near St. Petersburg. Putin said the military already has selected deployment sites in Belarus for the Oreshnik intermediate-range ballistic missile. Preparatory work is ongoing, and most likely we will be done with it before the year's end, Putin said, adding that the first series of Oreshniks and their systems have been produced and entered military service. He warned the West that Moscow could use it against Ukraine's NATO allies, who allowed Kyiv to use their longer-range missiles to strike inside of Russia. Last fall, Putin and Lukashenko signed a treaty giving Moscow security guarantees to Belarus, including the possible use of Russian nuclear weapons to help repel any aggression. The pact follows the Kremlin's revision of its nuclear doctrine, which for the first time placed Belarus under the Russian nuclear umbrella amid tensions with the West over the conflict in Ukraine. So this is very serious, guys. Okay, Russia is going to be deploying Oreshniks in Belarus later this year and mass producing them. And Putin warned that they could use Oreshniks against countries that provide long-range missiles to Ukraine. Okay, now remember, the U.S. is going to be giving NATO, or not giving, but selling, supposedly selling long-range weapons to NATO, who are then going to give those weapons to Ukraine. Does that mean that Russia could strike our bases inside of Europe, like Ramstein or some of these other big bases we have? Okay, this is very, very serious, guys. Okay, this could lead to a war with Russia. This is huge news. And it's going to be interesting to see what Trump does in response to this move by Putin. Is Trump then going to put some of the Typhoon missile systems in Poland, which are the American long-range missile system that can launch either the SM-6 ballistic missile interceptors or Tomahawk missiles, which have a range of 1,000 miles? Lukashenko, who has ruled Belarus with an iron hand for over 30 years and has relied on Kremlin subsidies and support, allowed Russia to use his country's territory to send troops into Ukraine in 2022 and to host some of its tactical nuclear weapons. Russia hasn't disclosed how many such tactical nukes were deployed, but Lukashenko said in December that his country currently has several dozen. The deployment of tactical nukes to Belarus would allow Russian aircraft and missiles to reach potential targets inside of Ukraine more easily and quickly if Russia decided to use them against Ukraine. It also extends Russia's capability to target several NATO allies in Eastern and Central Europe. The revamped nuclear doctrine that Putin signed last fall formally lowered the threshold for Russia's use of its nuclear weapons. The document says Moscow could use nuclear weapons in response to the use of nuclear and other types of weapons of mass destruction against Russia or its allies, as well as in the event of aggression against Russia and Belarus with conventional weapons that threaten their sovereignty and or territorial integrity. Okay, so if we attack Belarus with conventional weapons, any NATO country starts bombing Belarus or Russia with conventional weapons, Russia could then respond back with nukes, okay? So this is extremely concerning. We know Belarus already has Russian tactical nukes, okay? They already have nuclear gravity bombs that can be deployed by Belarusian fighter jets or potentially their Kinzhal hypersonic missiles that are deployed by fighter jets, and they can have nuclear warheads on them. And then also they have Iskander missile launchers, which are short-range ballistic missiles similar to Scud missiles that have nuclear warheads on them, okay? And they're already in Belarus. Now they're going to deploy the Oreshnik, which will give Russia the capability to strike all of Europe with missiles that cannot be intercepted, okay? And I wanted to update you guys on the situation with the drone in Lithuania. If you're not aware, there was a drone that flew over the Lithuanian capital last week as low as 650 feet, and it came directly from Belarus. Here we have a picture of this Russian drone. Okay, so the unmanned aerial vehicle that crossed into Lithuania from Belarus on Monday was discovered at the Gazani training ground in the Jonava district in central Lithuania. This was confirmed to BNS on Friday by Defense Minister Dovile Sakalini. We can confirm the drone has been found. More information will be provided soon, Sakhalin told BNS. Initial reports suggest the drone resembles a Russian-made Gerbera drone, which is designed to deceive air defense systems by mimicking the appearance of the Iranian Shahed combat drone. Military investigators and bomb disposal experts are on their way to the site. Details will be clarified as the aircraft was located using a search drone. It will be checked for any potential hazards, after which standard procedures will follow, as was the case with the first Gerbera drone in early July. The Lithuanian Armed Forces stated in a post on Facebook, the drone was believed to have crossed into Lithuania from Belarus on the morning of July 28. It was seen flying for some time before crashing. The military has been searching for the device for nearly a week. Residents alerted authorities after being woken by noise from the drone. Earlier in the week, the chief of defense told reporters in Klaipeda that the military had detected an object approaching Lithuanian airspace from Belarus. It remains unclear whether the object tracked by the military and the one reported by civilians are the same. A similar incident occurred on July 10 when another drone reportedly entered Lithuanian airspace from Belarus. Authorities initially suspected it was a Shahed drone commonly used by Russia in Ukraine, but later confirmed it to be a Gerbera. Later on Friday, officials have more details about the discovery. Officers used drones available to the Lithuanian armed forces that helped locate the crash site. Captain Lina Shuk, senior officer in the military police drone search operation, told reporters at the GUNNR training area. Lieutenant Colonel Arunas Saraka, Chief of Staff of the Air Surveillance and Control Command of the Lithuanian Air Force, confirmed that no military radars capable of detecting the drone in flight were positioned around Jonava. That's where the training area is. There are no radars in the training areas either, he said. Shuk told investigators, so wow, there were no radars around that training area, and that's exactly why the Russians sent this drone there. Okay, they were testing Lithuania's air defenses. They were testing to see how Lithuania responds, to see if they have radars there or not. And they flew this drone straight to this training area, which happens to be where NATO has their largest division in Lithuania, right outside of Kaunas is that training area. Kaunas is in central Lithuania, and that's where NATO has its largest contingent in Kaunas. Okay, so Russia sent this drone directly to the largest NATO division in Lithuania. Okay, that is clearly a test, clearly a provocation. This is the second time in July that they did it. And then also they flew fighter jets into Polish airspace earlier this year. They also had a drone crash in Latvia a few months ago. And then also last week there was this situation where a Russian naval patrol vessel was in Estonia's territorial waters for 30 minutes, okay? So Russia is clearly escalating with the Baltics and preparing to invade. They're supposed to do this big training exercise right on the border of the Baltics with 150,000 troops in just a few weeks, okay, which could be an actual invasion. Shuk said investigators have not yet examined the drone and cannot say whether it carried explosives or a control module, or whether it went down after running out of fuel or for another reason. Preliminary findings indicate it flew in a nice straight line from the Belarusian border to the GUNNR training area, he said. We were monitoring and possibly saw this object on the Belarusian side, but the detection signals were not stable because of the specifics of the aircraft, Saraka said. He added that the drone disappeared from radar before crashing. According to the officer, the Lithuanian Armed Forces' current radar capabilities were developed to meet requirements set before Russia's invasion of Ukraine. The equipment is geared towards larger aircraft rather than drones, but lessons learned from the war in Ukraine will lead to upgrades. Okay, so Lithuania could not detect this drone, and that's exactly what Russia was testing, okay? So in the event of an invasion of Lithuania, Russia now knows that Lithuania has a major gap in detecting drones, and they can use these drones to attack NATO bases in Lithuania, okay? And the Pentagon has scheduled the first major test of the Golden Dome missile defense system just before the 2028 election, sources say. The Pentagon scheduled its first major test of the multi-billion-dollar Golden Dome missile defense system just before the 2028 election, according to two sources familiar with the matter, setting an aggressive deadline for military officials to prove they can turn President Trump's vision for a space-based shield that can protect the entire U.S. into a reality. The timeline lines up with Trump's pledge in May to have it done in 3 years. Once fully constructed, the Golden Dome will be capable of intercepting missiles even if they are launched from other sides of the world, he said at the time. Missile tests are typically scheduled well in advance, one of the sources, a defense official, told CNN. But the timing of the test, which is currently scheduled for the fourth quarter of 2028, also suggests they want a win to point to in November of 2028, the official said. And the Department of Defense wants to avoid anything they perceive will slow them down. The Missile Defense Agency is planning to call the test FTI-X, the defense official said. FTI stands for Flight Test Integrated, indicating that the test will involve Golden Dome's many sensors and weapon systems working together to engage multiple targets. The Missile Defense Agency, which would carry out the testing, did not return a request for comment. So, wow, this is huge news. The U.S. will be testing its Golden Dome missile defense system in 2028, and it's going to be a full-scale live-fire test, including sensors and the actual interceptors. Wow. And Ukraine's Defense Intelligence Directorate, the HUR, has acquired a full set of classified internal documents concerning the Russian Navy's newest nuclear-powered ballistic missile submarine, the Knyaz Pojarsky, part of the Bore class. So this is Russia's latest nuclear-armed submarine class, the Bore class, which is replacing the Delta IV class, okay? It's part of their nuclear triad. According to an official HUR statement published on August 3rd, the obtained materials include comprehensive technical, operational, and personnel-related information. The documents reportedly detail full name-by-name crew lists, including positions, qualifications, and physical fitness levels, combat manuals and daily operational schedules, schematics of the vessel's combat systems, survivability infrastructure, and internal crew hierarchy, onboard protocols for casualty evacuation, cargo transfers, and towing procedures, engineering documentation, communications, buoy, listing involving organizations and commission members. Additionally, the HUR gained access to excerpts from the submarine's internal schedule book governing the daily combat and routine activities aboard the vessel. Wow, so this is crazy. The Ukrainians obtained basically blueprints and documentation of these new Bore-class submarines, specifically the Knyaz Pojarsky. Okay, and there are very detailed pictures on the internet. If you want to see them, you can take a look and just search. Okay, they have detailed blueprints of the subs and everything. So this is a huge breaking news. And Ukraine struck a giant oil refinery in Russia in the Nizhny Novgorod region. It had a refining capacity of 17 million tons per year, accounting for over 6% of Russia's total refining output. Wow. And the IAEA team at Ukraine's Zaporizhzhia nuclear power plant heard explosions and saw smoke coming from a nearby location where the plant said one of its auxiliary facilities was attacked, according to the Director General Rafael Grossi. Okay, so some kind of auxiliary facility outside of the largest nuclear power plant in Europe, located in Ukraine, was attacked. The IAEA team was informed by the ZNPP that the facility was struck by shelling and drones from 9 a.m. Around the same time as the team could hear military activity, the auxiliary facility is located 1,200 meters from the ZNPP's site perimeter, and the IAEA team could still see smoke from that direction in the afternoon. It was the latest in a series of incidents in recent weeks and months, further highlighting possible dangers to nuclear safety during the military conflict at the ZNPP. Okay, so very concerning. We have this active war going on right around the largest nuclear power plant in Europe and one of the biggest in the world with 6 nuclear reactors. Okay, so that's a ticking time bomb. And the Iranian deputy foreign minister said over the weekend that Iran is not in a hurry to negotiate with the U.S. And a person trying to break into the Davis-Monthan Air Force Base in Arizona was fatally shot by security, officials say. Security at Davis-Monthan Air Force Base fatally shot a person Friday trying to illegally access the base just outside of Tucson, Arizona. Around 2:30 a.m., the suspect, a non-military civilian, failed to stop and identify themselves at the main gate. The Air Force said in a news release the person was driving erratically, crashed into the deployed vehicle barrier, and reversed the vehicle, the release said. A member of the security unit on base, the 355th Security Forces Squadron, then shot the suspect. Okay, now one thing about Davis-Monthan is that they actually do maintenance there on the Doomsday planes and a lot of very strategic planes. Okay, so very interesting. And here we have a picture of that Russian drone flying over Lithuania. This was taken by a Lithuanian civilian. And the tropics are really starting to get active now. We have a disturbance off the coast of Guatemala with a 60% chance of development, and it's supposed to go along the coast of Mexico here in the Pacific. We have Tropical Depression 8E off the coast of Mexico, far out in the Pacific, and then also we have some activity here in the Atlantic Basin. We have Tropical Storm Dexter off the coast of North Carolina, far out in the Atlantic. We have a disturbance off the coast of South Carolina with a 30% chance of development. And then we have a tropical wave that just came off of Africa, and that one is heading towards the U.S. So if there's any major hurricane that makes landfall on the U.S., I will try to do some live on-the-ground coverage for you and maybe some volunteer work as well to help with cleanup. So be on the lookout for that this hurricane season. And I might be back later on with another update. In the meantime, tune into my 24/7 live stream for continuing updates. Check me out on Telegram, Twitter. Download my free app for Apple and Android. And also check me out on Patreon. And also you can get a silver membership here on YouTube to get some extra perks. And until the next time, take care, God bless, and don't forget the 3 Ps: prepare, practice, and persevere. And this update was sponsored by EMP Shield. Guys, EMP Shield has created a special discount just for you, the listeners of the NYPrepper channel. If you go to empshield.com and use the promo code NYPrepper, you can get 15% off your entire order. And why do you need an EMP shield? Well, this is a special device to protect your vehicle, your RV, your solar generators, your radios from an electromagnetic pulse, which could be caused by a solar flare or potentially a rogue country like North Korea detonating an electromagnetic pulse weapon over the United States that's mounted onto a satellite. So protect your vehicles, protect your RV, protect your radios, protect your generators with an EMP shield. Use my promo code NYPrepper to get 15% off. Installation is super simple. This is a veteran-owned business, 100% American-made, and the EMP shields have been tested by the military, okay? And free shipping is included to the entire continental United States. And the link and the promo code are in the description below this video.